Come on,
So,
Tien.
as you can see, I mean, there's a big difference. Like,
Right.
just performances alone, everybody's doing a better job. Like, you know. And,
We are doing a better job. You're doing a better job.
and it certainly looks better. So I get why it's controversial, because if you were a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z and you grew up with it, you kind of want what you grew up
what
with.
you're familiar with and what is your childhood episode.
But for us, the reason we showed Kaya, not the original DBZ, is because we want it. Because, well, A, it's remastered and it looks gorgeous, but B, we were interested. We've already shown the original DBZ, so for us, we were interested in showing this new version just because it was different. You know.
Yeah. So it's the people who were looking for a nostalgic point. We're sort of servicing them, hopefully,
Yeah.
and then also just showing people a new thing.
I mean, the goal is always, even though Dragon Ball Z's run forever, I promise you there's someone watching it every week who has never seen it before, and we want them to see the newest, best presentation possible. And despite people probably disagreeing with this statement, I think that's where that is right now. That's the best presentation possible.
Yeah.
But we also have a clip of the episode that's going to air this Saturday night, episode 15.
So if you haven't seen it, this will be a slight spoiler.
But this is just a little clip that shows you where we're at in the story itself, and then we can talk about that for a minute.
Like the monkey paw, Goku's last wish as you're going.
I mean, the thing about DBZ that I just love, that always when I watched it as a younger person and now watching it as an old-ass person, is just how insane the attacks are. How there's an explosion. It's not just boom. It's like a nuclear explosion. Everybody within a radius is just getting destroyed.
But I did think it was very magnanimous of Vegeta to agree to transport that fight out in the middle of nowhere so they wouldn't disturb any other people. So
And
he does have a heart of gold.
And I miss that they used to turn into the giant apes, like in the earlier part of Dragon Ball Z, way more often. It was more of a story point, and then it kind of, like, as Super Saiyan became a plot point, that kind of went away. But I love the giant transformation into the great Saiyan apes that crush everything.
Yeah, that's your dream as a giant Saiyan ape yourself.
It's true.
Thanks to Starwind Amada 20 for that comparison clip on YouTube.
Oh yeah, the clip we used. Thank you very much. So that's DBZ Kai. I mean, I'm sure we could all talk about DBZ forever, but I think
we won't.
That's a good overview of our feelings about it.
Yeah, so hopefully everybody's enjoying it. It seems like, for the most part, people are. I mean, ratings-wise, it's doing well, and we like it at midnight.
So let's move on to the question of the week,
which a lot of people answered on both the Adult Swim Facebook and our Facebook. And it's, what's your favorite video game? And these kinds of questions I never give just one answer to. Movies, music, video games. I don't think I ever want to be hemmed in. I do think I have.
Yeah, you can't be held down, baby.
Yeah, not me. But in going through it, Jason and I had a lot of the same choices overlap. So I would say we each did 3 in the spirit of your favorite. So of the 6, 1 I have a clear favorite and are fairly interchangeable. Do you have a number 1?
No, I don't have a number 1. I think for me with movies or games or books, it's like I do understand when people have like a favorite, but for me, it's at this point, I'm such a consumer of media of all kinds that I kind of top 10 is really as good as I could do.
In no particular order.
And even getting a top 3 of video games was agonizing. But obviously you guys were excited about this question because we got thousands of comments. We'll talk about what you guys said was your favorite games in a little bit, but just know there were thousands of comments, so we just did our best to pull from that. Well, why don't you go first, Gil? I'd like you to talk about your favorite games, since they're some of my favorites as well.
Okay, so I do have a favorite, which I will take last, and even that I'm going to put an asterisk next to and say I'm still willing to have the discussion on whether it's my favorite of all time. But my first game in this list is Fallout 3, which we have, I believe, the trailer, because we did not do a game review for Fallout 3.
And prepare for the future.
I love those dear hearts and gentle
that I do. Pat my heart, laughing like a from those dear hearts, people who live and love in my hometown. Those dear hearts and yellow people who live in my
So some slight gore there. Hopefully you weren't too offended by that. But it's funny because I played that game a ton, but I played it as first person. So the only time I would ever see what my character looked like is when you would get that slow-mo shot of a critical hit. And when it first started out, I was like, weird, that doesn't look like my guy. But
Well, so I want to ask, what is it about Fallout 3? Not only Fallout 3, but that particular Fallout, because there's New Vegas, there's Fallout 1 and 2.
So I did not play the first two Fallouts. I tried several times after the fact, after playing this game, to load them, and for whatever reason, putting them on my Mac never worked. It would always crash, and I could never play them.
You're a noob
Indeed,
to the
I am.
Fallout world.
But I'm quick to learn. So it was. I liked the Fallout vibe, which I hadn't experienced before now. So I think a good part of it is that experience for the first time, and that it was on console. That it was. I liked the world. I liked that you could just walk and stumble upon things. This was not only my first and kill them. It was my first Fallout game, but it was also my first big Bethesda RPG because I did not play Morrowind and I did not play what would have been maybe Elder Scrolls. Did I play? Anyway,
You played Oblivion.
But that was after.
I thought it was before.
Anyway, one of my first big Bethesda games. But I just liked that it was the apocalyptic wasteland speaks to me deeply and sweetly. It was. I liked that you could basically do whatever you wanted to do, and that it was karma points both ways, and that there wasn't. It wasn't like a right way to play the game. You could do whatever you wanted, and there were always cost-benefit analysis of that. If the guy at the store didn't want to sell you his gun, you could shoot him and take his gun, but you could never buy anything from him again. You could wipe out a whole town, except for the children, psychopaths. But you could never go back to that town again, so that it was an ongoing thing. And I played this game a ton. I went back and I looked this morning at the achievements, and the only one I didn't get out of this and all of
Xbox achievements.
The add-ons, the Xbox achievements, because this was right in my sweet spot of, for whatever reason, really caring about getting Xbox achievements. And I got all of them except for the alien recordings, and I still scoured that ship and couldn't find one. So I think I got hosed on that. But anyway.
So what's your next game? Because we should move on.
Fallout 3. Front Mission 4 is my next game, which we have our review, which you wrote, yes?
I wrote it, but you produced it.
Yes.
And you recorded most of the video.
The gameplay footage. So, I had not played... Well, let's play the clip and then we'll talk about it.
I'm a robot myself, but sometimes even I get the hankering to climb into a giant metal machine and blow stuff up. Front Mission 4 for the PS2 is a great way to scratch that itch. You play as two different teams of soldiers fighting to keep the world war from breaking out. The main thing that hooks you in this game is the battles. In fact, there's really not much else going on, but don't worry, that's a plus. It's all about building the best mechs, hooking up your pilots, and making your team more rugged than the bad guys, because you will be outnumbered. It gets down to a pretty insane level of detail. You can even tweak the color schemes to mechs. I like jungle camo myself. Game, you'll be proud of your scrappy little team and their hard-won victories. Ouch. I ended up playing this baby for about 55 hours, so I sure got my money's worth. Might even go back and try it again. Toonami gives Front Mission 4 for the PS2 an 8.5 out of 10. Suit up.
Just to prove that we always give everything an 8.5. That seems too low looking back, and I think I played this game 155 hours.
Yeah.
I bought a PS2 Slim solely for the fact that I could put this in my bag, and when we were going and traveling on shoots, I could bring Front Mission 4 along with me and play it again and play the training missions and play
your
everything.
Wubby.
Yeah, exactly. It kept me warm at night, and
I love
sleepless.
that. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I love that game as well.
Yes. And
if you like strategy games, it's one of the best.
We talked about games ahead of time, and this is one of the ones I stole from Jason.
It's fine.
In several different ways, because that was his review. But Yeah, Front Mission 4. I bought a Japanese PlayStation solely to play Front Mission 5,
and it didn't work.
Bastards never sent me the game.
Bootlegging doesn't work, kids. Don't do it.
No, the company, they were like, no, yeah, we're sending it. We're sending it for like 2 years. And finally I just gave up. I think I still have it in my desk somewhere. I played the what was it, Evolved?
Front Mission Evolved, yeah.
I look on
and you never played
the Apple Store. No, this was the first. I did not play
Front Mission 3
no.
for the PS1. Again.
Yeah, new.
Not an OG.
No, not. Admittedly. But a great game. I look on this for iOS every 4 months probably because I don't understand why I can't play this game on my iPad, so Apple developers get with it. And then my last game is, I think, and I'm still hesitant to say it, but I think that this is my favorite game of all time.
You can do it. Do it. Let's commit.
Is The Last of Us. And once again, in a self-serving way, we will play our...
Let's play our review of The Last of Us.
Review.
Here at Toonami, we like it when things come back from the dead. So, of course, I had to check out The Last of Us for PS3. Boy, am I glad I did. You jump into the stories, everything starts going to hell in a handbasket, and it's all downhill from there. Eventually, you fast forward 20 years into the future and jump into the tale of Joel and Tess, two survivors of the zombie outbreak who are just scraping by, until they meet Ellie, a little kid with a big secret. Now they gotta get her across the country, no matter what. Standing in their way are weird fungus zombies called clickers, the army, and even cannibals. Gross. There's really no other game out there like The Last of Us. Think Metal Gear meets Ico with a little Resident Evil thrown in. It's fun trying to sneak by the gross fungus-riddled clickers, but it's just as much fun hunting down marauders who are out to jack your stuff.
What about
They also make time for some moments of quiet beauty. The story in this game really kept me on the edge of my seat. It's one of the most emotionally taxing adventures of any game I've played. Basically, The Last of Us is the best zombie game ever. We got a masterpiece on our hands here, folks. If you own a PS3, you need to get your hands on this one. Ellie and Joel need your help. Toonami gives The Last of Us a 10 out of 10. The end is nigh.
Hell yeah, we give it a 10 out of 10.
Even watching the review, I was like, oh,
the giraffe. I could sit there and watch the giraffes forever, and did the first time through.
You played that game
a lot.
You played it 5 times or 6?
I played it on hard. I played it on Survivor. I then played it on Hard Plus. I played it on. Then you have to start back over because it eats your save.
For people
who
don't know,
I played it on Survivor again.
Turns it into a grind.
Played it on Survivor Plus. Then I played the remastered 2 or 3 different times. I played Left Behind, which was also great, and I like the way that they tied in the story there. I played the multiplayer, which I played totally as an afterthought because I had no interest in playing the multiplayer, and the multiplayer is great. What's other than Call of Duty, the first Call of Duty was the most fun I've had with a game I didn't really know anything about up until that point, playing multiplayer. It was just a little hard to get games, and then eventually they had microtransactions and it kind of ruined. Anyway, but I bought this game digitally this morning while I was looking at going through everything because I couldn't find my Last of Us Remastered PS4 disc, but I always want to have this game with me. So, Last of Us, yes.
I love this game too. I played it 3 times, which for me is a lot. I'm not your level of insanity. Reaches well beyond mine, but I agree. I mean, it's kind of a classic.
It's one of, if not the only game where I not only had no desire to skip any cutscene at all, but I sat there after the cutscene was over and just sort of gathered myself to play it some more.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only game I've played, the only one that, I mean, maybe some of the Mass Effect games too, that wants to be a movie you play and actually succeeds.
And is. So those are mine. Now,
well, those are some great choices. You know, I think for me, mine aren't in an order. There's not a number 1 for me. I just picked my top 3.
Coward.
I'm sorry. I just can't decide.
So your third choice is?
So right now I want to talk about my strategy game that I liked a lot, which is Final Fantasy Tactics for the PS1. So we'll show a little clip of this while I'm going to talk over it because the only thing we could find on the internet was long clips of gameplay, which is admittedly pretty boring. But let's look at this.
But not when you're playing.
So, like, the game itself is super dry. It is a pure strategy RPG. It's about as Japanese as it gets. And the reason I love the game is because Everything is infinitely customizable. There's tons of secret characters like Cloud from Final Fantasy VII or the Chocobo. It is within the Final Fantasy universe, but it's its own storyline, and the story really doesn't make any sense. But the point of the game isn't the story, it's to go to different places and have these strategic tactical battles. And what makes the game great is that we went into a dark spot. There we go, we can go back to it. So what makes the game great is it's this depth of choosing your team, balancing everybody out, and it takes a lot of work to get everybody leveled up and have everybody's powers be just right. I bought this again when they redid it for the Game Boy Advance. They put it out as Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. Played the whole game again. I currently have it on my phone, and it's because there's a version of it for the iPhone, which I still play when I'm bored in waiting rooms. I've got a game I return to. So for me, this is just one of those games that I think, like all great games, you just want to return and play again and again if you like it. So we can bill out of that footage.
And you were saying that this and Front Mission 4 would be if you had to pick a strategy game, is it pretty much a tie?
I like robots better than I like fantasy, but I like fantasy too. So for me, it's like it would be a very hard choice. I think the gameplay in Tactics is actually a little deeper than the gameplay in Front Mission, but not by much.
Right.
And I played the Front Mission games from Front Mission 3 on the PS1 and was hoping it would catch on, but it didn't. But I love
blame you,
tactical.
America.
I love tactical strategy games of all kinds.
Sure.
So that's my first choice. My second almost destroyed my life, so I think that qualifies as a game that was important.
Because you made it out the other side? It wanted to destroy you.
So we actually did a review of the add-on for this game, but my next choice is Skyrim, which I think everyone's going to be familiar with. It was a massive hit. So let's play our review of the add-on for Skyrim.
Dungeons, dragons, swords, and skill trees. That's what I dream about. Skyrim is amazing. If you haven't played it, stop watching and go get it immediately. For now, let's talk Dawnguard, the first Skyrim expansion. When Dawnguard opens, you got a choice to make. Join the vampires or kill the vampires. I'm a vampire hunter from way back, so that decision made itself, kid. There's a bunch of missions, but much like the main game, there's a ton of other side hustles. There's also a new dragon to find and kill, but it only appears if you're level 78. If you didn't max it before, that could mean some serious level grinding. Good boy, Shadowmere. There's also a few new shouts to learn, and skill trees for werewolves and vampires. Dawnguard isn't great, but it's solid, and it got me back into my sky hole, which is always a good thing. Toonami gives Skyrim 100 out of 10, and Dawnguard gets an 8. Skyrim.
I think 100 out of 10 is an appropriate rating for Skyrim.
You wrote that review.
I did, and I love Skyrim as well.
Yeah, I played Skyrim basically. So for me, I don't typically, little fun fact, Gil had a long-term sort of, I wouldn't call it an obsession, but a desire to get as many in-game achievements as humanly possible. When he liked a game, past all reason. And Skyrim is one of the only...
I'm looking at you, orange box gnome that I carried from the beginning of the game to the end and launched into space.
Skyrim is one of the only few games that I got every single achievement on for both this and the add-on, and I beat the whole game and every achievement in a month.
Yeah.
Which I think anyone who's played Skyrim is going to know
impressive
how bananas that is. That means I did about 100 hours in a month.
It took me 6 or 7 weeks, and Jason would say, "You're still playing this game?"
And my wife and child, fun fact, they remember that period of time like I was out of town. Like they're like, "Oh, remember when you played Skyrim and we were alone?"
And your brain was plugged into the game.
Yeah. So Skyrim for me, I love open world games. I like fantasy games. I've been playing Elder Scrolls games since Morrowind, which we did a Toonami review for. And then I'm very much looking forward to whatever they do next. I think Skyrim was a masterpiece.
Yeah, indeed. I think if it was addicted to life-sucking games, I should have put World of Warcraft on, because that one's ate my life for a considerable period of time.
Year.
And I still consider myself clean and sober from World of Warcraft.
So then my last pick, I brought a little friend.
Who does not respond well to the
I brought a little friend
screen,
who has an invisible outfit, Link. from The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker for N64. For GameCube. So when that came out, I think you actually played it longer than I did, but I just fell in love with the world, and it's a game I think about like a lot, even
I have
post
the
having
map
played
in
it.
my office
Yeah.
of the world.
So we did a review of it back in the day, so let's show that. This is pretty old.
The Wind Waker, the first Zelda game for the GameCube, is out, and I dove right in. Long story short, you look like Link, and you're off on your adventure. If you're new to the Zelda world, you start off small and pick up stuff along the way. There's places to go, and people to meet. Dungeons to solve, and bosses to smash. Your conductor's baton, the Wind Waker, is the key to getting you through the game and around in your talking boat. While no man's an island, the whole world's an ocean. So you've got a sea chart and a bunch of other maps. But if you want to find everything, get yourself a guide and a sandwich, because you're in for a long haul. There's a ton of side quests. You gotta stop and smell everything. Overall, this game is fun and deep and looks great. Something for everyone. Toonami gives Wind Waker for the GameCube 10 out of 10. 16 years and going strong.
Yeah.
I like that I wrote the 2 game reviews for the games that you picked, and you wrote the 2 that I picked.
Yeah.
So I think our list
Weird.
did cross over.
It's a little
decent amount.
incestuous, but I mean, we've been working together and friends and playing video games and putting the reviews on television for over 15 years, so that kind of happens.
That's right.
You know, for me, the thing about the Wind Waker that makes it so great is how, and at the time it was very controversial. Zelda fans, and still is, but now it's more accepted, but it was a radical departure in terms of the look of Link and the game itself being the sort of toon-shaded look. It was a post-apocalyptic version of Hyrule where there's been a flood and the world is totally different. I think the Link you were playing was a descendant of the original Link, not the original Link. Even in the game, Ganondorf, the bad guy, is not quite as evil as he is. He's almost tired. Like it's almost like he wants you to just
finish it,
get it over with. And to me, honestly, the exploration of being on the ocean is, I haven't gotten that same feeling from just about any game before or since, except maybe Black Flag.
Yeah, Black Flag.
Assassin's Creed Black
Rogue,
Flag.
maybe. Which is the same.
So, you know, for me, that's why I want to return to Wind Waker, is just not only was the gameplay super tight, but the world was just wonderful. So I'm hoping that the new Zelda game, which is going to be an open world game, sort of gives me a little bit of that feel.
Brings back the Stay Awaker.
Yeah, but you actually played it more than I did because you had to do the review, but I just...
Got to do the review.
It's just a game I think about a lot. So now let's talk about the top 5 games that we're... This is, by the way, our best guess, looking for the thousands of responses, so thank you. This is what we think the top 5 games were that you guys...
Based on what people said, not us just picking what we think the best are.
So number 1 on that list is Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, which honestly I could have picked besides Wind Waker. I've played it multiple times.
Yeah, any one of these 5, including obviously Fallout 3,
are solid.
Yeah, would have been...
Final Fantasy VII is a landmark game that we did a review for back in the day that I can't find anywhere online. I think it's lost to history.
Oh, really? Had to dig that one out of Iron Mountain.
And then we also did a review of Metal Gear back in the day. Metal Gear.
And we did the anthology.
And I just played Chrono Trigger. I was on my honeymoon last year, and I actually played Chrono Trigger on my Game Boy Advance on the beach. That's what a nerd I am.
How romantic.
I used my honeymoon time to play a video game.
That was from the Adult
He fronts
Swim
like he's never done that.
Facebook. I didn't play video games on my honeymoon, but only because I didn't have any with me.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But that was off the Adult Swim Facebook. And that was 3,000 or 4,000 comments.
Yeah.
So, and if your vote wasn't up there, we apologize because there was only room for 5 on the screen. So the next one is off the Toonami Facebook asking the same question.
Which, this one confused me, I have to say. I mean, Shenmue was number 1 for sure, but I couldn't tell if it was just... I don't know if Shenmue's reputation has grown since I played it, and I played Shenmue 2.
I played the first one, Dreamcast. I did not play Shenmue 2.
And I don't know if the reputation of the game has grown.
I think the Shenmue fan club found out that people were voting on Shenmue and came to the Toonami Facebook because it was... All of a sudden, no one had talked about it, and then it was 150 people, all of which had 350 likes.
Yeah, I mean, I like the game. I can't imagine saying it's the best game ever.
Sure.
Same with DBZ Budokai Tenkaichi. I mean, that's like, it's a Dragon Ball fighting game, so it's cool, but like, best game ever? Not even close for me. I'm sorry, guys. You can get mad at me.
No need to apologize.
I mean,
it's everyone's opinions.
Ocarina of Time, and then Jet Set Radio Future is a game I missed when it came out and has grown in reputation since. And there's even newer games that sort of emulate that game. It's crazy to me.
This is like the deep cuts list of
that's Toonami fans.
Games.
We're deep cut types.
Nice job, everybody, Toonami Facebook fans.
And Persona, I love all the Persona games. So I've played a couple. I haven't played them all, but I've played several, and they're super fun. They're RPGs that take place. It's like school kids, so it's in like a modern setting, but they're fighting demons usually. It's pretty fun. It's like a horror modern RPG.
Nice. I've not played those. Those just so fun though.
So now we have a new segment. Dana Swanson, who is the voice of Sarah, is going to. She speaking of games, she plays a lot of mobile games, and we don't get to do.
Because we're lucky enough to play console games and computer games at work. Really, the only time that I have an opportunity to play mobile games that I don't have my console with me is on a plane, and I just end up not really playing a lot of them. But I know that people do, and the ones that I've played, I've had fun with. It's just not top of mind for me.
Yeah, so Dana kindly agreed to review one of the mobile games she's been playing right now that she's excited about. So this is her segment entitled Mobile on the Move.
What's up, players? It's Dana Swanson. I'm the voice of Sarah on Toonami. I'm traveling today, here working in Los Angeles on a shoot. And when I travel, I like to game. So here's a segment I like to call Mobile on the Move. Take it away, Preflight theme song I made for this segment. It's Mobile on the Move. Mobile on the Move. This week on Mobile on the Move, I'm going to talk about a game that I've been playing that I absolutely have been enjoying called Evoland. Evoland. Evoland is a game that came out in, I believe, 2013 as a Steam game, also download on Mac or PC. And it was recently introduced on the App Store, which is where I found it, and I kept seeing people review highly positively on it. I checked it out, and whoa, it's like a historic walkthrough of JRPGs, of adventure games. It's a hybrid Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, hyper-referential fun time. The whole game evolves. It's not just that the story evolves, actual things in the game change and evolve. So you open a chest and you get something like 16-bit color or sound or mode 7 and the entire scope changes. There are a ton of Easter eggs in there for people who have played various Zelda or Final Fantasy games, the names of the characters, for example, or even just the look of the world, or look at the characters. Somebody kind of looks like, I don't know, another character with a lot of yellow hair and a giant sword. There is a card game reminiscent of Final Fantasy VIII. It's a nice little mini game that you get to play. And there's even a part in it that is Diablo inspired. As somebody who has played a lot of this stuff, it made me want to play them again. The game itself is a quick playthrough. You'll get through it in a couple hours. There's parts that are maddening if you are on a touch device. These controls are really just not fun. I kept dying in this one lava floor. And even when I was capturing footage for this, I kept dying. It's a little challenging just because of the way the controls are. Definitely worth a peek, even just for the entertainment value of it. Is it a great game? That's really up to you, but it definitely made me laugh out loud. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. This has been my review of Evoland on today's brand new segment, Momo on the Move.
So thank you, Dana.
Yeah, that was great. It looks fun. I like that you build the world as you uncover things.
Yeah,
and it's an homage.
I'm behind
of all games.
I'm always behind on mobile and Steam games because there's so many. But that's where I think a lot of game innovation is happening right now. And you know, it's unfortunate that we can't review them on air because the resolution is too small. But I'm glad, you know, now that we do this show, if you guys watch it, we will continue to do.
Yes. So if you have a favorite mobile game, let us know on Facebook.com/Toonami.
And I think we should round out our incredible amount of games talk with the sneak peek of this Saturday's goodie, which is a game review. So why don't we go ahead and just show it, and then we can talk about it after.
Hey, Sarah, check out this cool new movie.
That's a video game, Tom.
Yeah, there's so many cutscenes I almost forgot. It's called The Order 1886. You play as Sir Galahad fighting to unravel some dark conspiracy. But all you really gotta do is follow along and be quick on the trigger.
Is that London? It looks pretty scary.
Tell me about it. It's full of rebels, half-breeds, and worse.
Worse?
Yeah, much worse. Lycans. Good thing you never really die. Just a sip of the old black water and... that's better.
That's sort of cheating, isn't it?
Nah, just keeps the story moving.
Well, it better be a good one because it looks like you're watching a lot more than you're playing.
Yeah, I guess. But it is the best-looking console game ever. And when you do play, it's still pretty fun.
Yeah, but still. We're giving The Order a 7 out of 10. Sit back and enjoy the ride.
I like this background. We should use this all the time.
That background's awesome. I wish my outside my window at home looked like that.
I think we can make that happen.
So, enough game reviews for you, folks?
Yeah, so if you don't like video games, we apologize in arrears for non-stop talking about games. But
So fun fact about this game, about The Order, there are 3 people who do most of the video game reviews at Toonami. Myself, Gil Austin, and a guy named Dennis Maloney, who's an original team member who's been a part of Toonami since the beginning. We are the 3 people that do the majority of video game reviews you see. We all have different tastes, and in this case, Dennis liked this game, and we needed a review done quickly, and neither Gil or I like it really.
yeah, this is not... I see the appeal. The appeal just doesn't exist for me. This is not my kind of game. It's for me, it's not enough doing. It's too much watching and slow walking through.
Yeah, it's quick.
If I'm slow walking, I want to be going to do something, and I don't want to go watch another cinema. But if you, I mean, people sit there and
people like. I mean, I think people will like
other people play video games, so that's just not my.
I think a lot of people like it, but it has to be said, it's basically a quick time event. The game, which to me that's boring. I like the story. I think it's interesting because he and I have both played it. But it's just, there's not enough game to it. It's just, it's like it's trying to be like Last of Us, which is a movie you play, but it's failing at that. But
you play it.
But Toonami is basically, we let our reviewers sort of decide. There's always a little back and forth conversation, but we basically let the reviewers say how they feel about it. And Dennis felt it was a 7, so he's wrong, but that's okay.
I think he actually said 7.5, and we downgraded.
Yeah, we were like, get the hell out.
That's usually the way it works, and that's why we end up on the half points a lot, because one person likes it and another person. We all say it's an even number, and it ends up being a half.
And if we really hate a game, we just won't review it. Like, you know, if I played this, I just wouldn't review it. But Dennis liked it, so he wanted to review
so hopefully you guys who like it like the review, and maybe it'll get you to play it if you haven't played it.
So why don't we... But I think we finally wrapped up video game talk for the day.
So that's the first video game segment, and we will be transitioning into our off-channel video game talk for extended times.
So we, this week, you know, every week we ask you guys to submit your favorite fan promos that you've cut for anything Toonami related or in the spirit of Toonami. And as usual, you guys continue to send us amazing stuff every week. Please keep doing that. We'll post your links to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Toonami. We're going to keep trying to show at least 1, if not 2, every week. So what we found is that the first one is basically a version of something we used to do a long time ago on Toonami. We did these IDs that just sort of were weird sounds and images and just the Toonami logo, and they left an impression. They're kind of hard to find on YouTube, but we're going to show you this one called Chrome, and then we'll show you the one that influenced it, the original Toonami ID that influenced it. So this is Chrome. So thank you to Digitani Zoo who did that and sent us the YouTube link. And this person said it was like a project, like a school project, which I think is awesome.
It looks great. We should do those again. We need to call our 3D team.
We should do them again. And then
or Digitani Zoo.
And then we're going to show you Blood, which is sort of, this is low res, so forgive us because this isn't HD, but this is the original ID that influenced this. I really love that one. I love the creepy sound design.
It just seems like we're murdering.
And when we were
on Cartoon Network,
when we were on Cartoon Network, we did get a little pushback about those because people were like, "Isn't that going to freak kids out?" And as it turns out, when you look at the YouTube comments, it left an impression on a lot of people as kids, like, "Oh, it was so creepy. I loved it." Like, I think you either loved it or didn't get it, which then kind of led us into my current career and yours at Adult Swim.
Yeah, exactly. Now hopefully everybody just loves them.
So the next one is basically a minute-long sort of, music video / inspirational piece. We've done a lot more of these in recent years than we used to. We used to have Tom speeches, but not often music videos using quotes from the shows. And this one I thought was really good. It's called What Is Your Purpose? And it cuts up a bunch of Toonami shows and sort of has a through line that I think you'll get when you watch it. So check this out.
So that was from Brad Smith. That was on YouTube, so thank you, Brad. That definitely feels like a Toonami piece we would have done. It seems very much inspired by Dreams, Broken Promises that you may or may not have seen on TV or on YouTube over the years. But it's that vibe of inspirational and
a little bit melancholy. Yeah. We do that a lot. We like to be a little bit melancholy. We like a little dash of melancholy with our inspiration.
We're hugging you.
Yeah.
We're hitting you.
We like you to be a little down so that we can lift you up. It's a technique. But yeah, please keep sending us your fan promos or your friends' fan promos to our Facebook page. And we will continue to try to show at least one every week. And if you guys want to do promos for shows that are on now, shows that used to be on, that's okay. Just keep them coming. We really love them.
Yeah, and sadly, we did not get a Kill la Kill topical promo this week. So you guys step it up, Kill la Kill topical team.
So then the last segment we have for this episode is a short one and a nerdy one from Steve Bloom, the Bloom Room. And this week's Bloom Room, Steve didn't have much time because we just broadcast last on Friday.
And we told him yesterday that we were doing Tuesday, so
he...
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. He pulled something together, sort of more about what he's doing right now, but we think you Star Wars fans will get a kick out of it, so let's go to that.
Do not change that URL. This is the broadcast you're looking for.
Ow! That is kind of uncomfortable. Big props to the 501st for being able to wear those things for extended periods of time. Steve here. Welcome to another edition of the Bloom Room. This week is going to be pretty quick and furious because we changed the date and I didn't have much time to prepare. But I did manage to put together a little piece of hello goodness from the cast and crew of Star Wars Rebels, the show I'm working on now. And there is a lot of love between Star Wars and the Toonami universe. We did show a lot of Clone Wars, so I thought that would be appropriate for this week, and it'd be fun for you guys to meet the cast of the new show. So without further ado, here's cast and crew of Star Wars Rebels, including the incredible Dave Filoni himself.
I'm not sure. Hey, Toonami.
Hi, Toonami. Hi, Toonami.
Hi, Toonami.
Hi, Toonami.
Hey, Toonami.
Hey, Toonami.
Hi, Toonami.
Enjoy the rest of Preflight by the Emperor's orders.
That is a deep nerd game, but I love it.
Yeah, so everyone comment on all the voice actors that you can identify there and which one was Dave Filoni.
Yeah. Fun fact, well, I was going to talk about that, but I'm going to give that away. I've met Dave Filoni, and so have you, a couple times, and he is always wearing that hat. And
so if you picked the guy with the hat, you chose the correct Dave Filoni.
And he's always wearing wolf T-shirts. He's obsessed with wolves.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I am too. He's always wearing a wolf T-shirt. It's the best thing. And he is a very sweet and awesome dude. And
very talented.
And also in there was Freddie Prinze, who's a voice for Star Wars Rebels. He almost was the voice of Tom. Do you remember when Sean...
Lots of fun facts today,
remember,
people.
Remember when Sean wanted to get Freddie Prinze Jr.? and we wrote Freddie, and he just never got back to us.
Weird. I don't know.
Yeah, why would he not want that gig? At the time, he was like, sort of on a wave, like a big movie star. So it wasn't surprising to us.
We did reach big though. The voice of Sarah was, or no, the Magoozy host was almost.
No, the what's her face? I can't remember her name.
That'll be for next week's episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Selma Blair.
Yeah.
The original Toonami was going to be a live action thing with Selma Blair talking to a robot named Surge in a CGI virtual environment. Thank God that didn't
So you
happen.
could have had that. But you didn't.
But that's it. So thanks for watching this week. We'll be back next Tuesday and every Tuesday. Please go ahead and comment on our Facebook. Tell your friends about it. And we will see you next week with more Toonami nerd stuff.
Yeah, and thanks to Steve and Dana for sending in their stuff. And hopefully we'll have the voicemail set up this week. We forgot to do that last week, but it's 470-24-TOONAMI.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
So I guess Preflight is a weekly thing now.
Seems like it. I hope people are enjoying it.
What's on the schedule for tonight?
Looks like Dead Man Wonderland and a sneak peek goodie.
Well, I hope they're ready. Get ready to cue Earth.
Take it away, William Street.
Hello. You are watching Toonami Preflight. I'm your host, Jason.
And I'm your other host, Gil.
And today we're going to talk about a bunch of different stuff. We're going to catch up on Dead Man Wonderland. We are going to talk about our question of the week. We're going to show this week's goodie. We're going to have another check-in from Steve Bloom. I feel good about it. How do you feel?
I feel good about it as well.
After having done one episode.
Yeah, so 2 down. I think we've got it all figured out now. If you haven't already liked us on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Toonami. So that's the main vehicle to go interact with to be able to participate in the question of the week, which will hopefully be a weekly occurrence.
Yeah.
And also to talk about your favorite shows and anything else you'd like to see on the show.
So why don't we kick it off? Let's talk Dead Man
Wonderland.
So Dead Man Wonderland is a show that currently airs at 3 a.m. We originally brought it back on our not April Fools, but the first broadcast when we came back. Dead Man was like one of the 2 new shows. The other was Kesher and Sins. So we got Dead Man. I can't remember. Did Dead Man did Funimation suggest it, or was it Kim Manning, our head of programming? Who suggested it to us?
It was both. It was part of a group of screeners that we saw that were on DVD, which still seems like a somewhat antiquated way of going about
screeners.
it. But, and we were watching them at the Coachella shoot, and it really just seemed like
the right
show to be on the new Toonami, because it definitely felt like a show that would clearly not have ever been on Cartoon Network's
a more adult show than we were ever allowed to, just in terms of in terms of violence and content and the tone of it. And weirdly, a lot of people kind of complained when we first started airing it, like, what is this show? But it really won people over. And it wasn't a big show in Japan. It got canceled after one season. The manga went on for several years, but it kind of was one of those shows, kind of like Big O, which in Japan didn't do that well. But here, it kind of, when we rebroadcasted it sort of found a new audience. And since that airing, people have consistently come back to us and said, "Man, Dead Man, we love. When are you going to make a season 2?" Like, by the way,
we don't actually control those.
Yeah, we can't do
choices.
that, but we get it. And so we decided to bring it back.
Yeah, and pretty much universally, the reaction by the time the finale was on was that this was a great show. Why don't you show it again? And at that point, we were just wanted to be able to move on to more new shows for us. But we definitely, in the back of our mind, we're always looking towards bringing it back, and we're definitely glad that it's on.
Well, so for the people who are watching this who might not have watched Dead Man, we'll just show you our
We might
promo.
spoil it today a little bit because we're going to talk about episode 10 of 12. But this promo will not spoil it, so you still have time to catch up between now and Saturday night.
A classroom full of kids has been murdered. The only survivor, Ganta Igarashi, wrongfully convicted. Ganta's been shipped off to the worst place on Earth. Dead Man Wonderland. One part amusement park, one part maximum security lockdown. The only way to survive is to fight. Ganta's got a special talent. He's a dead man. His ticket to fame and glory? A brutal blood sport called Carnival Corpse. Only the very strong, or very insane, make it out in one piece. Can Ganta survive this crazy world? Or is he just more meat for the grinder? And Wonderland, Saturdays at 3 a.m. Get busy living or get busy dying. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Intense.
Indeed. I think we should start all of our promos with a room full of school children who have been murdered. Even though now our promos aren't really...
We don't have VO as much.
Yeah, we're moving away from the sort of classic Toonami promo to the more modern movie trailer.
Yeah. Just more immersive. I think a younger generation thinks of it as more immersive. Like the Voice of God trailer has kind of become a thing of the past. It's something we did really well, and something I'm still sad. High five. And I'm still sad that we had to move away from it, but it's just not the way people do promos now.
And I think we had the first four episodes.
We're in the classroom.
It's so scary.
Murder!
We had the first 4 episodes for that promo.
Yeah.
And the show changes a little bit, definitely by the time that we get to where we are.
Well, so let's talk about that. We're about to air episode 10 as of this broadcast right now.
Yes.
Tomorrow
night or tonight, depending on when you're watching this.
And I will say, for me, I don't know how you feel, but for me, Dead Man is I really like it. It's sort of an over the top, like all the bad guys are so over the top. Ganta's such an over the top like whiner. And in a lot of ways, it's got a lot of the classic sort of anime tropes, but it's got some wild ideas mixed into it that sort of elevate it, I think, and make it more interesting. Like the idea that you can do anything with your own blood is such a gross but awesome idea.
Yeah, and I didn't think about it really until we started prepping for this show, but how many shows we recently have been airing where your own blood is the key to success and survival. And I don't know if that's
subliminal
or like where that's coming from, but yeah, it's that you, as a result of having this affliction, you are becoming the ultimate badass if you can control it.
If you can not bleed to death.
Yeah, and that anemia plays an important role in controlling your blood loss.
And as a lover of extreme violence, there's some really good deaths in this show, I have to say.
Yeah, and it definitely made our lives easier, just darkening the light in all the crazy violent parts. But there's definitely moments where you're like, what's going on?
Why is it so dark? How they tint the screen so that you can't see everything that's going on.
She was holding somebody's head, and it just looks sort of like her hand. But it's I definitely like the show. I think it's cool.
And I think where we are in the story, I mean, it ends on a cliffhanger for sure. I haven't read the manga, but I know the manga wraps up the story. But we're leading up to sort of the big cliffhanger because we're only a couple episodes away. and they never reveal in season 1. They kind of hint, but they never really reveal, I don't think, who she really is. They reveal some stuff, or no? Do they reveal that she's Wretched Egg?
Spoiler alert. Yes, that's sort of like episode 5. Is they're putting it together, and it's that they played together as kids, and that she's doing it all as an homage to him, to Ganta, and that she really loves him.
Yeah.
And the only way to show that is by killing everybody and bringing her to him.
I've been there, Shiro.
Yeah, so if you haven't tried to kill everybody, you're not really in love.
But, so yeah, this is probably, it might not be the last time, but it's going to be one of the last times we would show this show, because a couple runs is sort of, really all it needs. And I don't think it will get a second season or anything. There was, I believe, an OVA, and it's a prequel.
Yeah, and it's
at the beginning, what leads Dead Man Wonderland to even happen is, we should have probably talked about this at the beginning, is there's an event which causes Tokyo to sort of have a third of Tokyo to be destroyed. So 10 years later, they have this sort of arena, which is they put criminals in, and to raise money to help take care of the city, people bet on things that happen in this arena. They pit prisoners against each other to fight.
The audience on the top level of the prison, the audience doesn't know
that they're actually
it's actually, because they show in the first episode, they show the people and they're like, oh, the special effects are great. These big swinging axes are cutting people in half.
I would watch that show.
And then there's a sub layer, the G block, which is the online sinister,
where they
with
fight.
the really cute.
It's a sinister cabal. It's a sinister cabal of rich people that pit these prisoners to fight to the death in an underground fighting ring, but they're not there in person. It's just their online avatars, and they're all super cute, like little kawaii, like bears and stuff, but the voice is always like, let's see them fight to the death. It's just, the show's got a lot of cognitive dissonance, like Shiro being so adorable. They have several bad guys that start out as like sweet girls, sweet schoolgirls, who then reveal giant swords and are horrible, awful monsters.
Hibana, who's the reason why the plan sort of goes awry, is the tiny little girl who then flays.
But so I think if you haven't seen it, let's show.
We'd probably totally ruin it for
we
you
probably
now,
blew
but
it. But whatever.
Catch up.
Several
years.
Here's a scene from the upcoming episode we're airing on Saturday night, episode 10 of Dead Man Wonderland. Damn.
I feel like Ganta and Shiro might be talking about two different things about the ship. There's a duality going on.
Look at the bodies that we're
stacking
standing. Toonami stacking up them bodies. Well, so that's just a little recap of Dead Man, but it's got a couple more episodes.
Yeah, so 10 is this daylight savings night, March 7th, and then we've got 2 more after that.
And so let's go on to the next thing, Gil. Why don't you talk about the question of the week?
So our question of the week, as we've now done twice, we're trying to just sort of get a way to let people get into the broadcast. So we asked everybody, what's your favorite anime/cartoon badass? And we're not 100% sure badass is supposed to be hyphenated, but as it is. So we have prepared our favorite badasses, and then we also have the not entirely mathematically scientific.
We got, the
comments have been great, and we really love that everybody's getting in, the Facebook's working, and people are reposting funny memes and cool images, and there's a conversation going on amongst fans for their picks. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it. We're definitely enjoying reading all of your comments. So do you want to start with your badasses?
One thing I noticed about people's comments that I thought was funny was, when we'll talk more about this later, was that it was like the obvious choice for everyone. They were like, oh, clearly, like everyone
obviously
has...
which is also what we did too, and we came up with... We keep saying what's your favorite, and then we come up with several different, so we appreciate everyone else sticking with the actual question, despite the fact we cheat every time and don't have ourselves nailed down to just one favorite.
We're making the show. We're allowed to cheat. So I chose 3, and the first one is not really going to be a surprise to anyone that knows me at all, but my first favorite anime badass is Hiroyui. What? From Gundam Wing, because, and I think we should say why we think they're so badass. There's different ways you can look at the
Criteria
word.
for badass.
Yeah, like someone
This-
on Facebook said Hank Hill, and I can actually see that.
Well, Sean, can you bring up that? Do you have the image that I sent you this morning?
We haven't. A Hank Hill
Yeah,
image.
so I think if you see this, you might change your mind on why Hank Hill may be the ultimate badass.
I mean, I think. I mean, I.
And it's not necessarily just his love of propane and propane accessories.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see if we can.
Slight technical curveball.
There we go. Here, let's show the picture of Hank. There we go.
So, I mean, I think that pretty much speaks for itself.
Wow, I don't remember that episode of King of the Hill at all.
Yeah, it's later on. I think it's the 9th season when Hank has just had enough of everybody's shit and he's just ready to go.
All right. Well,
so anyway,
thank you for the detour. So anyway, as I was saying, Hiro Yui, the pilot of Wing Zero in Gundam Wing, and the reason I think Hiro is such a badass is because, to me, when I see a character who doesn't care if they live or die, I find that, like, there's just nothing scarier as going up against someone who literally doesn't. They're willing to throw their life away to make sure you do not win, and that's like
that it's not necessarily that they are skilled, but it's not necessarily their skill set that makes them such a badass. It's that they're willing to.
They're determined and crazy.
They want it more.
Yeah, and
they didn't save anything for the swim back.
And Hiro epitomizes that in this show. Like, every Gundam pilot is always shocked by the depth of Hiro's commitment, and even
there's always some level of conversation that takes place amongst the other Gundam pilots, and Hiro's already like, why have we already blown ourselves up?
So let's show the clip, and then I'll explain the context of the clip. I remember having to paint out the blood behind his head when we had to first show the show.
The peanut butter and jelly sandwich that he's eating.
I got some strawberry sauce on myself. But that scene, basically the setup for that scene is that the Earth Sphere Alliance is going to, I think they're going to drop a colony on them. They're holding the Gundam pilots hostage, and they have to basically surrender their Gundams. And they all agree. All the pilots agree. Okay, we're gonna stop fighting, and we're gonna turn ourselves in. And Hiro basically gets a message from the leader of their revolution that just says, no, you can't let them have your Gundam. And so the second he gets the message, he immediately is like, cool, I'm done, and just blows up his Gundam so that the enemy can't have it.
And that it's not really a mission, but he's accepted it before.
And what I like about Gundam Wing in general is that they look at the Gundams as almost it's a whole thing about weapons of war and the morality of whether or not you should use something that's an ultimate weapon, are the Gundams too much power for someone to
cheating?
have? Right. And is it moral for them to use it? And that's a question that goes throughout the whole show. And Hiro, it's just his clarity,
clear on his choice.
Yeah. So that's my number one. My number two is an older show called Fist of the North Star, which we did see some people, probably older anime fans like myself, commenting Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star. But basically, Fist of the North Star is a post-apocalyptic world with a character named Kenshiro who wanders the wastes, basically getting into trouble. People mess with him. He hurts them very badly. It's an incredibly violent show. People always ask, could we show it on Toonami? It's probably too old, and frankly, even now it's probably too violent, but maybe not. But back in the day when I was young, I would rent these VHS cassettes of this show, and it was riveting to me. Like, I love post-apocalyptic stuff.
How many obsolescent terms you just used in that sentence. Rent VHS cassettes.
Totally.
One of the Facebook comments for them saying Kenshiro was that all of his enemies are already dead. That's
Totally.
the criteria.
Kenshiro does not stop. So here's an amazing, hilarious clip of Kenshiro hurting someone that we found on YouTube that I think kind of just says it all. I pressed the hidden PowerPoint, and now you're going to die at the end of this broadcast.
Well, there's no motivation to do a good job now, so might as well just leave.
But yeah, Kenshiro, as you can see, is man enough to beat the shit out of a tank, and then simply...
And that guy is totally powerless to do anything about it. There's no way that he could
run him over. And then he just touches his head, and then not only blows him up, but the entire tank explodes. That's what it means to be the Fist of the North Star.
Pretty badass.
So Kenshiro, and then my third choice, and I'm sorry to say, this is not one that even, I don't think there was even maybe one comment on our Facebook that agreed with me. I literally didn't see this name.
I did not either. We
so
may have gotten some in this morning, so if you are the person, we apologize. But you should have commented earlier.
He's old school, Golgo 13. And the reason Golgo is, to me, Golgo's an older... What's weird about Golgo is Golgo still hasn't really taken off in the U.S. I mean, it has because there's been a couple shows that have come out here and a couple movies, but in Japan, the Golgo manga has been going for like 40 years, like forever. And there's countless movies and video games. There's live-action movies with Sonny Chiba. There's a ton of just Golgo stuff. But here, he hasn't really taken off. I have always loved Golgo.
Do you blame yourself for not bringing this up sooner in Toonami's run?
I do. I have always loved Golgo because it's since the movie Golgo 13, The Professional came over here. Just because the reason he's a badass is because he's just a cold bastard who never cares about anything. He's only doing a job. Anyone he ever meets, any woman he ever talks to, anything he ever has, he's literally, I'm going to do the job. I don't care about anything else. Nothing affects me. I'm going to walk away with everything in flames, which
is the Jason DeMarco School of Business.
I mean, kind of. So let's take a look at Golgo 13. Yeah. So that was actually a guy cut a trailer that was sort of a modern trailer for Golgo 13. That was a clip from that, but that's from the movie The Professional, the movie I saw, which is basically a series of Golgo murdering people in quiet ways.
At the Catalina wine mixer that Robert clearly should not have attended.
So I think my choices clearly reflect my age because I've picked some older stuff, but those are my favorite anime cartoon badasses. Let's move on to your choices.
Okay, so I didn't really thought about my definition of a badass even really until looking back at my two choices, but my first choice is Spike from Cowboy Bebop, and I don't think you really need to explain why, because it's pretty much a badass. But what I like about particularly this clip, because this contains my favorite Spike badass moment that we're going to show, is that it's overcoming insurmountable odds to show up and kill everybody. That I appreciate the dedication to service, and that it's not necessarily that it was a better plan or that he had better equipment. It's just he is better than you.
Right.
You are going to die because of that.
Let's check that out.
So yeah, let's. Pretty badass.
Yeah, we'll do it.
That I don't know what about it, but him reloading in the elevator and especially coming out and he's
looking both directions,
where it's just the who's next aspect of it, and the fact that he keeps planting tiny little explosives and seems to have a great deal of joy of blowing up everybody who's chasing him.
Spike is pretty badass.
Pretty badass, and I think that that's a pretty badass clip. So my second one is a similar character, and it is Revy from Black Lagoon. Revy Two Hands, which seems like a weird.
Well, it's because she always uses.
But I mean, it seems like you would come up with a better nickname.
2 hands.
2 hands. It's like 2 guns. Seems like a better nickname.
2 guns, Revy.
Yeah, but anyway, be that as it may. Also a badass, and I think for the similar ways of the sort of anti-hero badass. Does not care, ready to rock at any moment. Clearly not the same type of character, in that she has, but the damaged sort of former badass down on their luck, but still has. But
Revy's also
still got it to go.
Revy's also basically kind of has a death wish. She just is like throwing herself.
It's the Lieutenant Spears of the anime world, that she's already dead in her mind and is willing to
do whatever.
Just go through the motions.
Yeah, she kind of hates herself in a way that Spike maybe doesn't as much, but it's a similar thread. So yeah, that was pretty badass.
Pretty badass. I like the cassette recorder Iron Eagle style of preparing to kick
Iron
ass.
Eagle. Oh, now that's a dated reference right there. So why don't we talk about? So everybody was kind enough to comment on our Facebook. We got tons and tons of great.
So we've been posting
answers
on the Toonami Facebook, which is facebook.com/Toonami, and also on the Adult Swim Facebook.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to migrate more people over to the Toonami Facebook as we go along. So like us there and check it out. And so we have a top 3 fan favorite badasses.
And there they are. And I am not surprised by... I'm only surprised by Alucard.
So Goku was pretty much cleared number 1. Spike seemed to be number 2. And then number 3 was kind of a tie between Vegeta and Alucard. And again, this is not entirely scientific in its interpretation, but that this is felt like going through what it was. We got a couple Revies, we got some Vash the Stampede, we got a couple Hero Yuis.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
Kinshiro, like I was saying before, there were a couple of Toms, which I like. Almost feels a little like pandering, but if that's the way you feel, then that's
sounds
that's
badass. It's all right.
The Naruto, one person said no one from Naruto, which that just feels like you have an axe to grind for some reason. And then one person posted a picture of Tien, and it said, beats Goku in World Martial Arts Championship, holds off Cell and Boo by self, underrated as fudge, except they didn't actually say fudge, but this is a family show.
So again, that gets into what you think a badass is, because some people seem to think a badass is knowing you can't win and reaching beyond yourself to try to do something, even though you might be a weaker character, but you have this inner strength to do something extraordinary in a key moment.
Yeah, that you're the utility infielder who needs to just hang on until the real badass can show up.
Arguably, Piccolo is that character. I mean, Dragon Ball Z is full of tons of great characters like that. So yeah, thank you for
it was kind of a 9,000 way tie for 4th place, but we definitely appreciate everybody coming in. And next week's question of the week, do we want to tease that?
Yeah, we'll tease next week's question of the week is what's your favorite video game, which I haven't figured out yet, so I'm gonna.
We're probably gonna have 16 choices, but if you can post your favorite one at facebook.com/Toonami, we would appreciate it, because we definitely like seeing what people's opinions are, and
we'll talk
see if everybody agrees with us.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to agree with us. So let's talk about the next segment, which is our sneak peek. We are going to show you guys the goodie that is going to run on this Saturday's Toonami. So I'll set this up a little bit first. So what we're showing is a music video, and it's not a music video we made, but it's one from a band named Royal Blood. And the reason we're showing it is because we like to, we've been showing music videos on Toonami.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that now? Like the history of...
Sure. We've made music videos on Toonami for years since we started. And in the last, since we started back at Adult Swim, we are trying to always have something new every week for you guys, like one new thing every week in Toonami. So, sometimes we just can't make something. So especially when we have movies and we have multiple sort of time slots to be able to fill, I started looking for interesting animated music videos, because you never see that on TV anymore, and I thought it would just be a nice, interesting thing for us. And we also make some, like we made, my friend Adam Fuchs made a Flying Lotus video called Zodiac Shit, so it just became a place to show these animated videos, and it's been well received. And now we're starting to get bands coming to us saying, hey, do you want to show this video? We like what happened when we showed the Panda Bear video, or when we premiered the Boards of Canada tease. Bands are now coming to us, and Toonami's always had a strong musical identity, and for us, showing these videos is just a cool way to break up the air.
And you still get people asking about the original Toonami Night of Music videos.
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, for younger Toonami fans, once upon a time, we did a 1-hour Midnight Run special where we showed nothing but animated music videos, and that was sparked by Daft Punk coming in, telling us, hey, we have, that was Interstellar 555.
That's right, Daft Punk came to us.
And Daft Punk was premiering, they had cut up the movie that they made into little videos, and they had premiered one more time, but they hadn't premiered some of the others, and they came to us and said, would you guys be willing to air like three of them? And we said, of course. They made a message for us. We also ran the White Stripes video that was all the Legos.
Right.
We ran the Kenna video, Hellbent, that was all stop motion. And then we ran a couple Gorillaz videos, because they also gave us a video to premiere. And honestly, it's one of the things that people keep coming back to us over and over and saying, that was the first time I ever heard Daft Punk. That was the first time I ever heard Gorillaz. Like, when are you going to do that again? And the answer is probably never, because we can't, the ratings just probably wouldn't hold up. And that's why MTV doesn't show videos anymore. But what we can do is show the odd video in between our normal run. So we have this video by this band Royal Blood. They're from England. I think they're from Wessex. I might be wrong. Sorry,
Maybe Sussex.
They're a
Norsex.
They're a some X. So they're a two-piece, and it's basically rock, like garage rock type stuff. So they have a video that Christy Caracas, who makes our show Super Jail, the Adult Swim show, he co-directed with another fella, and we just love it and think it's great. So we're going to show it. So why don't we check this out? So Royal Blood, Out of the Black. What'd you think of that?
I liked it a lot. It felt, the Christie stuff felt like a Super Jail episode of Rick and Morty to me. I don't necessarily know why, but that's the...
Well, I'm just guessing. I don't want to speak for anybody, but I'm guessing that the budget he had to do the animation for this video was far less than the average Super Jail. So I think it's because of the way they had to animate it with slightly less detail, but it's still Christie's style.
Yeah.
So that's why it feels like Rick and Morty a little bit. I can see what you're saying. But I like that jam.
But yeah, it's a good song.
And I like supporting...
I like the live action animation,
yeah,
editing back and forth, and the fact that it's basically just give me back my candy bar.
But yeah, if you guys like us showing music videos and you want to suggest animated videos to us that we can eventually air, please do so. Go to facebook.com/Toonami and just let us know, or you can go to toonami.tumblr.com to our Tumblr and let us know, or we have a Gmail address,
which is toonami.preflight@gmail.com.
We'll put a graphic up eventually for that, but for now, if you want to tell us about some animated videos, we'd love to show more. But now, we're going to hear from Steve Bloom with his segment that we are calling
Bloom Room.
Bloom Room. So Steve, who last week gave us an amazing little sort of look into what he's doing, this week gave us another pretty hilarious video. You're going to learn a little.
So last week was a little bit
Steve.
more, I guess, recreational. This is a little bit more business Steve.
Yeah, this is like what Steve really does with his days. So those of you who are interested in learning about the life of Steve Bloom, the voice of Tom,
and who wouldn't be?
Yeah, let's see this week's Bloom Room segment.
Yo, Steve Bloom here for the Bloom Room. Welcome back. So I thought I'd take you guys on a little journey of what my day is normally like. This is pretty much most of it. Driving around. It takes me probably about 4 hours of driving to handle my normal sessions on a regular day. I've spent about 2 hours already, and it's only about 1:16 in the afternoon, and I've only done one session. So, very, very glamorous. On to the next thing. Well, hello again, Toonami faithful. It's your old buddy Steve Bloom back in my home studio. I thought I was going somewhere else today, but it canceled. Such is the life of a voice actor. Tomorrow I'm going to be going to another famous studio in Los Angeles, and I'll take you with me. So I'm going to do this in little segments this time, and we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching. Be right back. This morning I finished off recording 16 auditions that came in last night, and then recorded all of the Toonami stuff that you're going to be hearing this Saturday, and now I'm on my way to another session. So I just finished recording a guest starring role on a show at a studio that rhymes with Nickelodeon. I'm going to let you guess what that is. Once I got there, it occurred to me I probably shouldn't show footage from that studio while I'm broadcasting for this one. So, in the meantime, here's pictures of who I saw today. Good morning. This is how I wake up every day, with this in my face. You may have seen this before in one of the Star Wars movies. This is an Ewok. Her singing voice isn't quite as good as her tongue work, though. There are two other characters in this little play. This one here, who's the most feral of the beasts. And this one here, ferocious, terrifying, would rip your heart out. If love could do that. I'm up. Yes, it's the same day. It's a few hours later. That's why I'm in the same shirt I slept in. I can do that because I have a home studio, and nobody cares. You don't even know if I'm wearing pants right now, actually. You don't want to even think about that. Anyway, the reason that this week's Bloom Room is sort of all over the place is because that's how my life is. I never know what I'm doing day to day. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing moment to moment. Besides my own internal confusion, it's sort of how the business works. Things change all the time. I thought this was a good opportunity to give you guys a little bit of insight into how those changes occur. In this case, this is a little piece that I recorded yesterday. It's a game review for Toonami. There was a very small change in this, actually, 2 little changes. And we call it a pickup session because we're literally picking up just those little pieces of what I recorded before. Sometimes I don't really know how they're going to play this out later on. I don't know what the animation's going to look like. I don't know what pieces of the video game they're going to use. So something as simple as emphasizing one word can actually change the whole context of the piece. So I don't argue, I just know that they know what they're doing on the other side, and I just redo it according to their instructions. So this is a pickup session. Here we go. Very simple. And we're already rolling. Tell me about it. It's full of rebels, half-breeds, and worse. Yeah, much worse. Lycans. Good thing you never really die. Just a sip of the old black water and... that's better. Yeah, tell me about it. It's full of rebels, half-breeds, and worse. Yeah, much worse. Lycans. Good thing you never really die. Just a sip of the old black water. That's better. That's it. Simple as that.
So that was the always hilarious Steve Bloom.
Driving around in his car, which... Clearly, if everyone else were as awesome as we were, his life would be a lot better because he never has to leave for our video.
Yeah, that's right. He gets to record our stuff at his house. So yeah, that's this week's Bloom Room. We
a little tease to what next week's goodie will be, and we will be moving Toonami Preflight to Tuesdays if all goes according to plan.
Yeah.
So you'll get a glimpse of that if you want to see the goodie, and if not, then you can be surprised the next.
Watch the actual broadcast. So let's move on to the next thing.
We are also not wearing pants, by the way.
Oh yeah, you shouldn't have told him that.
Maybe we are.
So let's move on to the next thing, which is the fan promo. And we asked you guys to again link us to your favorite Toonami promo or AMV that you've cut. And it didn't have to be for shows that we're currently on, and it didn't have to necessarily use music that we use. And we got a couple that we liked. Do you want to talk about the first one?
Yeah, so the first one is a criminal threats, what we always call criminal threats.
It's a lineup promo, essentially.
Yeah, we sort of used to play fast and loose with the criminal threats soundbite. Sometimes we'd use it for lineup promo, sometimes we wouldn't.
Yeah.
Since we've come back on the air, those two things are sort of separate. The criminal threats become more music videos for us driving overall tune-in times. Yeah. This spot, typically when we make one, it's a 30. This spot is a 60, but certainly not out of character for us to have done it. This is from Alien Renegade Promos, which is a good title for cutting your Toonami spots.
Alien Renegade Promos, go.
And this is that we had on YouTube and was linked to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Toonami.
So let's show this.
Every Saturday night at midnight, Adult Swim is building you a better cartoon show. We call it Toonami.
There you go. So we saw most of it.
Kind of stepped on the end bit
Stepped
there.
on the end.
Little bit cheating, putting the Boondocks in, but it's still funny. And
there's
was the lead in for a while. So
there's some shows
in the vein.
There's some stuff that wasn't on Toonami in there, but that's okay. It's a fan promo. But as far as like the editing of it and the pacing, dropping the music out at the Boondocks quote, why didn't we think to bring no guns, is pretty great and the kind of thing that we would do. So,
and using the Fleischer Superman Criminal Threats bit from the Rocketeers episode.
Is that where Criminal Threats comes from? I mean, I knew it was from Fleischer Superman. I couldn't remember the exact episode.
Yeah, it's the mayor will not be.
Oh yeah, we won't be intimidated. We've been using that since the
jump,
very, very far back. Do you remember who originally? I know it was Cahill, who was our editor back in the day, was a guy named Mike Cahill, who now runs the Adult Swim bumps department and is in charge of all the bumps.
Sounds like you do remember.
He used to be our main editor for Toonami. Was it him that pulled that clip and used it in the promo, or was it Sean Akins who wanted it, or was it you?
I carried the tapes into the edit room, so it was a group effort.
You get some credit.
My memory of it is that Sean wanted to look at the Supermans just to see what was there, and then Cahill felt like that bite was pretty great, and we used a lot of them, especially the long, like Bro Mars watches.
Yeah, we made some early music videos, which are some of my favorite early Toonami stuff.
Yeah,
ever.
We had more time to air stuff and more time to make stuff. People seem to think we always made more things in the past, but we're generating way more content now.
Yeah.
But it's just because of the nature of how the breaks are run and the time that we have and the promos of the network and everything else. They're shorter pieces, 60s, sometimes 90s.
Yeah.
Every now and then it's a 2-minute spot, but those don't get to run that much. So the older pieces are definitely all longer.
Yeah, way longer.
And had just sort of as much time as need be to get them done. Now we tell Johnny and Sarah about 10 minutes beforehand when we need the spot on the air, and they still work it out.
Yeah, and also, and we were working full time on Toonami,
right?
And also, back at that time, Cartoon Network was definitely much more the Wild West. And if you wanted something to be 2 minutes and 36 seconds,
we programmed everything, and there wasn't a is it okay for this? It was just here's what's going on, and that's why a lot of stuff ran wrong, and we never found out about it because there was no internet, and why we had a lot of flexibility to do some cool things.
Yeah, but credit to Cahill and Sean for using that quote and making it a regular thing, because they were just continuing that tradition. So credit to
as
those
is
guys.
Alien Renegade Promos.
And Alien Renegade Promos, who now continues it for the rest of the fans.
Paying it forward.
So let's talk about the next. I know we did a Kill la Kill promo last week, but
it's a new week and a new episode.
Yeah, and another Kill la Kill topical for this Saturday's episode.
And we don't do Kill la Kill topicals.
No, I'm starting to wonder if
it seems
we
like
should.
we probably should after seeing these, that maybe that's something to look into. So
I mean,
thank you for this week. I'm Krillin YT for your Kill la Kill topical for episode 5.
Yeah, let's show it. Let's show that.
Next all-new episode of Kill la Kill. Kill la Kill. Saturdays at 12:30 on Toonami Adult Swim.
Yeah, I mean that.
So yeah, still other than that feels like a scratch track
VO track
promo that we would.
I mean, the multiple endings, definitely a Toonami thing, where they did the gardening club and then an action shot and then another and then Adult Swim and then an act like that is definitely something we do all the time. So. Congrats, I'm a Krillin Whitey.
Whitey.
I know, I just like reading it that way. And I would say, I would love to ask fans, I mean, at this point, maybe we should see, can we get a topical for every single week of Kill la Kill while it's on? Can you guys submit Kill la Kill topicals in addition to that?
Dare you.
Yeah, see, like, I would love to have a Kill la Kill topical for every episode of the run, all fan created, if you guys want to do that.
And please sign the waivers, as always, when you send these in, so when we put them on air, we don't owe you any money or anything else.
But as always, awesome promos, and if you guys want to keep sending us your fan promos, please send them to facebook.com/Toonami. We would like to do this segment every single week if possible and just constantly show the music videos and promos you guys are making, because we have some amazing fans who are really discovering how to be editors through this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and linking your YouTube videos to Facebook is definitely the best way for us to do it, so please continue that process.
And then I guess, really, we're pretty much done with the show. There's only one more thing that we wanted to talk about. We want to announce a schedule change. Many of our more eagle-eyed viewers are aware that Dead Man Wonderland's coming to a close soon, and they're asking what's going to replace Dead Man. So, yeah, do it. Attack on Titan. So we still have the rights to Attack on Titan, and though it didn't do so great in the earlier in the night, we think at the time in which Dead Man's playing at 3 a.m., that's a good time slot, and we want to try. And we want to try it again.
We love the show. We want to have it on. People want to see it. Just not enough people to have it be the lead-off show, but that's not an indication of it not being good.
And we don't have the money right now to put another new show at 3 a.m. That's just financially not not possible because we're trying
Full disclosure.
We're trying to get new shows for the earlier part of the night. We need to spend our money there. So,
and another slight schedule change, like we were saying before, that we're going to move Toonami Preflight to
this show
that you're currently streaming on your internets to Tuesdays, with the hope of getting it up Tuesday evening, so that when you're watching it, if you don't have a chance to watch it in the 15 minutes that it's up online before that night's Toonami or the next night's Toonami, that you can come back and check it out and watch it again, and then get all the extra jokes because it's layered and it's built that
it's
way.
deep like that. It's layered. You can also call us. We have a voicemail. You can call us and leave us a message. 470-242-NAMI.
470-242-NAMI.
Fine.
And so if you call us right away, there is a chance that this voicemail message
won't
actually be set up because we have to still do that. So if you get this number is no longer in service, it's really that this number is not yet in service.
Just keep trying.
And we will eventually record that. But leave us your messages. Keep them relatively short so we don't just skip them and move on to the next. But we definitely want to hear from people.
Yeah, tell us what you want to see on Toonami. Tell us what you want to see on Preflight. Tell us
what you don't want to see on Preflight.
Answer your question. Answer the question of the week, and just leave the messages there. We'll be checking those along with our Facebook so that we can come back to you guys and discuss your feedback.
And if you're not already watching us on Toonami.tumblr.com, check that out. That's not going to be the best way to interact with us for this show moving forward, but it's definitely a great place to be.
And it'll be a place where we post our promos and schedule changes and stuff like that.
Yeah, so Facebook will basically be around this show. Tumblr will be more around the actual broadcast, I think is probably the easiest way to explain it.
Social media is so confusing, guys.
Our social media strategy is still in the whiteboard phase, and we're going to parking lot it for right now and come back eventually.
But thanks for watching. That's been this week's episode of Preflight. Come back on Tuesday evening, and we'll have a new episode for you.
Hopefully.
Certainly.
Most likely.
Sarah, what's this Preflight listed on my rundown?
It's the Toonami streaming show.
So it's the show before the show?
Pretty much. We're here to introduce it.
Cool. Think they'll talk about us?
One way to find out.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to Toonami Preflight, which is the once a week live streaming show, or at least we're recording it live, where Gil Austin...
Hello.
And myself, Jason DeMarco, will take you through a whole bunch of different stuff. We'll talk about upcoming anime releases, we'll talk about game reviews, we'll talk about things that are coming to Toonami. In the case of today's broadcast, we're going to talk about what's coming to Toonami tomorrow night. And then we'll take some questions and answer some questions from you guys, Toonami fans, and let's start it going.
Yeah, so first up is a look at a show, sort of a recap, kind of a preview. We're trying not to give too many spoilers away of what's coming up in future episodes for the people who haven't seen them all already. But for this week, we're going to talk Kill la Kill, which is on Saturdays at 12:30.
There's that sweet Kill la Kill graphic. Yeah, Kill la Kill is a big sort of popular, new-ish anime that we are happy to be showing on Toonami. We're only about Geez, what are we, 4
So this
episodes
is,
in?
we've shown 3. This coming Saturday will be the 4th one, and that's what we're going to tease. First up, we have our promo that we launched Kill la Kill with, just to, if people don't know the show, just to give them a little bit of background of Kill la Kill, and because we make awesome spots, we just wanted to pimp it some more.
Let's let people see that promo in case you guys haven't seen Kill la Kill. Here's just a taste of what it's like. So that was our Kill la Kill promo, which I like. Who did that promo?
Johnny cut it. I wrote it. That's why it's
Well
so
done.
awesome.
Well done.
Amazing.
Now, you had to... let's talk a little bit about Kill la Kill. So you had to watch a bunch of episodes when you were... We've both not seen the whole show.
Yeah, we
Just full
saw.
disclosure.
We did not see the streaming, or not streaming. I guess when it
The
was on
sub version.
Netflix of
Yeah.
the sub. So we got maybe 4 or 5 episodes in the beginning, and as we were cutting this spot, we got a couple more in. So I've seen now at this point probably 10 or 11 because I've sort of been watching them as they come out.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been watching them beyond that point. I like watching it when it comes out. So we just.
I've only seen about 9. I watched a few at the beginning, and I watched 1 or 2 of the streaming of when it was on Netflix, subtitled, and knew that I was interested in the show. And then when I heard that we were going to be able to make the deal to get it, I was definitely concerned. Getting the show about the level of fan service.
It never seemed like it was going to be a possibility. It was always. Anytime we ever dealt with it, was always like, well, we can never show that on Toonami. So it was when it came around to actually being a possibility, we still were like, well, has anybody actually seen all these episodes? Is this going to be an issue? And so far, it hasn't really been that.
No,
I mean, there's going to be certain things. There will be a particular moment in time when we'll have to deal with something, and we honestly don't know how we're going to deal with that point. Not to give too much away and not to really know what we're doing.
What do you think about, like, you know, so we're on Toonami, tomorrow night's episode will be the 4th episode. So how do you feel about at least the beginning of the show, like where you think it's going?
Yeah, I mean, what I like about the show is that it feels very much like a Toonami show, but we've never shown any magical girl anime shows on, but this feels like that.
Sailor Moon, yeah.
Right. No, I mean, since we've been back on, like, as we've been acquiring new shows, we haven't been, that's just an avenue that doesn't necessarily feel like it's Toonami. But this show, to me, very much does feel like a Toonami show. I mean, it's got great action, it looks amazing, it feels very much like the shows that those guys have made before. It feels like Fooly Cooly style fighting, and it feels very Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
But it's ramped up to such an extent that it is both being what it's making fun of and also sort of making fun of those style fan service shows and anything else along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, it much like Gurren Lagann, it embodies the tropes of magical girl anime while also sort of pushing what that is supposed to be or what it can be. I love it. I think I like that it's got a distinct world with the idea that the school
controls.
Only in Japan would anyone ever make a show where the school is literally controls all of society. So the plot of the show is that there is a totalitarian regime, and basically how you do in school decides not only how your future goes, but your entire family. So the people who aren't doing well in school live in the slums. The people who are sort of, team captains get, live a life of luxury, and everybody who's sort of higher up the ladder gets special outfits called Goku uniforms that give them special powers. And whereas in other magical girl shows, the heroine or main character grows into their new outfit, like that's when they really realize their powers, they get a new outfit. In this show, the outfits are their powers, and they derive more abilities by basically synchronizing with these outfits, and in some cases with no outfits, which brings us to...
That's when you're the most powerful, obviously.
Another key thing about Kill la Kill, and while we were wondering if we could show it, is that there's a lot of fan service. There's a whole lot of nudity, and it's not overly sexualized. It's mostly used for humor, but there's a ton of it.
Which is obviously for an American TV broadcast is you can chop people's heads off, but don't show sort of naked people.
And I don't necessarily mind. I'm not big on fan service. I mean,
Right.
In every show, there are certain shows like Soul Eater where, you know, I think it's used mostly for comedy and it's okay, and it's sort of obviously an anime tradition, but this show has a level of fan service I'm a little uncomfortable with, but at least it's somewhat spread out in that there's definitely male characters who are taking off their clothes, and it's not just
glowing nipples of the male, and then removing shirts to hilarious music.
Yeah, but not knowing, all I know about the show other than that they slowly get more and more naked. So if you haven't tuned in, you should.
There's still time.
Yeah. Other than that they get more and more naked, I don't know. I can't tell about being 8 or 9 episodes in. I can't tell where it's going. I really like that. And it's not dragging itself out as a storyline. Like, there's no big, long arcs. It's like there's something that happens every episode that clearly changes something that moves everything forward in a simple but clear and effective way. And I really like that storytelling.
Yeah, and it seems like it's going to be some level of fighting amongst people to recreate the hierarchy, and obviously leading up to a series of main fights, and then the head fake of, whoa, this, I mean, that feel certain is coming.
And I mean, I love Ryuko Matoi, the main character. I love her Kamui, her outfit, and their relationship, and I think she's very what they call tsundere. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced, but a strong, yells a lot, angry female lead in an anime, but in a very she's very lovable nonetheless. But yeah, I am happy we're getting to show it. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. But why don't we have a clip from this from tomorrow night's episode.
Yeah, so going back to the point earlier of just like only in Japan, tomorrow night's episode is, not to give too much away, is about them not being able to be late to school, and if they're late to school, they're going to be expelled, which is given away in the first 9 seconds of the show. So much like any promo trying to get you to watch, that's the most root, basic level of it. But that's just something that wouldn't take place in an American. Let's just like, oh my God, tardiness is going to be the worst offense of all time.
Yeah, uniquely Japanese.
And Mako plays a big role in this one, and I like her character. I like that she takes everything, she's so earnest and takes everything so seriously, and she's simultaneously saying probably the most ridiculous stuff in a fairly ridiculous show.
Yeah.
But anyway, if we want to,
well, let's check that clip out.
This clip.
So, I mean, yeah, the sense of humor on the show is very much in line with what I like, and I love the illustration style. Like, the art is just incredible. It's one of the better looking shows I've seen in a long time. I could see how if you were more of a fan of sort of serious anime, well, I mean, I'm kind of a fan of all different kinds of anime, but I could see why if you were a fan of like more serious action shows that this might annoy you. But I look at it with pretty much about the same regard I look at with Edgar and Lagann, which is just, it's a really great show that explodes the tropes that it embodies, which, and I just totally beautiful. Anyway, that's...
Yeah, and I do like that we are potentially exposing people who may not have seen the show before to a show that...
Exposing.
You know, no pun intended. To the show that may not have seen before, similar to sort of Dead Man Wonderland, where when it came on, there was that sort of level of, you guys can't show this isn't a Toonami show, and then everybody sort of universally by the end was on board. So I feel hopefully that this will be that same kind of.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think there's more hype. There's more hype behind this show than there was for
yeah, sure,
but not compared to like Attack on Titan or Sword Art, the other shows we've shown that were sort of on the newer end of the spectrum. This show was pretty popular for sure, but not quite at the level of Attack on Titan, which was just huge. But yeah, so that's Kill la Kill. Hope you guys want to watch it. It's on tomorrow night,
12:30.
12:30, and I think we should go to our next segment, which is our question of the week. So the question of the week, Gil, you go ahead. I think you came up with this question.
Yeah, so we were just trying to think of ways to involve fans, because this show is obviously not being recorded live, but we want to try and have some sort of interaction with you guys and have this sort of built. Eventually, this will take place on our newly created Facebook page, which will be Toonami Swim, I believe.
Yeah.
Because some ass bag is sitting on Toonami's Facebook page that may or may not actually be us, and we forgot the password to. But be that as it may, we're working towards resolving that. But in the near future, we will have our official Facebook page up, and a lot of this stuff will take place there. So this week, it was off of our Tumblr page, which is toonami.tumblr.com. And this question was, what was your first anime? And we left it sort of open-ended, whether that's the first show that you felt like was anime, because I know for me as a kid, I didn't know that these shows were anime. I just knew that they were amazing. So it was, but
I
like in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
But then it's like, is it what you're looking back on and what do you consider your first anime? But so that was sort of open to interpretation. But we each individually answered this, and we also gathered a bunch of fan comments as well.
And I we've had to answer this question before in various interviews and stuff. So, but it's something that literally for each of us, I think it's fair to say, tell me if I'm wrong, changed the course of our lives. Like,
yeah, very much so.
We wouldn't be doing this for a living if we hadn't seen our first anime.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, not to speak for Jason, but for me, I didn't even know.
Don't speak for me.
I didn't even know that these shows were anime. I just didn't know cartoons existed like this, and it sort of blew my mind apart.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's probably a universal experience for most people who are now anime fans. Maybe you knew, maybe you were going to the comic store and you saw them, but I think especially people roughly our age, it was just sort of put on TV and you were watching it, which is kind of what I like about Toonami, that I think we had that effect on people
No,
as
I mean,
well.
yeah, that's what we became.
Pioneers, you might say.
We became the people who were doing what these earlier generation of dubbers and really mostly
Hopefully
hucksters, you know, hucksters looking to make
hack
a
and
buck.
slash.
Yeah. But they did a great job in exposing this art form to a Western audience that had never seen it. And obviously you and I are of a certain age, so for us there's a whole series of probably 10 shows that we could talk to just about everyone who grew up where we grew up and when we grew up, and they would say one of those shows.
Yeah, and weirdly, I did not know until sort of looking into it a little bit more, like dates and everything, that a lot of these shows that we're about to talk about, if you didn't live in very specific geographic regions in the States, you may not have seen
a lot of them were run
New England,
locally.
New York, Pennsylvania, which is, I grew up in Pennsylvania, some in California.
Yeah.
But now, hopefully that...
Yeah, and I mean...
not that Toonami's always been strictly an anime block, but just in terms of action cartoons.
Exposing, action cartoons. But so for me, I'll start. So one of the first shows I remember falling in love with that was an anime was actually a collection of shows called Force 5. And what this was actually an American home video company got the rights to a whole bunch to 5 different anime and ran them weekly as a block, so every day was a different show, but it was called under the umbrella of Force 5. So in Force 5 was the show Guy King, which I loved. It was a giant robot show. It was mostly giant robot shows. Vanguard Ace, Space Cateer, or Starvengers, Grandizer, and Space Cateers, and some of those are just names that the American distributor made up, but for me...
Like Space Cateers.
Yeah, like Space Cateers. It had a huge impact on me because I was a young sort of kid who liked to stay at home and draw, and I started seeing these amazing giant robot fights and drawing these robots, and I became pretty obsessed with Guy King. I remember buying the Shogun Warrior, that band I put out of Guy King, and running around with the Shogun Warrior, yelling at my mom, going, "Electron chain!" You know, and my mom being like, "Calm down." But yeah, so let's take I have a quick clip that I found on YouTube of Force 5, and I think this is the Guy King open. Yeah, so let's play that. So that was like it was late 70s.
Yeah, 79, 80 probably.
Yeah.
It's somewhat ironic that as Toonami we're playing the full opens on our show. I'm sure that you've realized, but if we had the time, we totally would. So luckily we have all the time in the world on this show, so that's why we're doing it. For me, I'm slightly younger than you, and this...
What are you saying?
That you're slightly older than me.
Right.
I watched these shows. I never really, as a kid, put them to... Like, it never made any sense to me because I didn't really understand the whole Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, a different show. I was always like, what happened yesterday? Like
you
it
weren't
was
regular enough viewer to.
It was.
Gotcha.
I would watch it and think it would be the days before episode, and it'd be a totally different show.
Why
But
is it
it
totally
looked sort of
different
similar. And I was like, this show is awesome, but it makes no sense at all because
So-
I just sort of thought Force 5 as one long,
So you weren't
never-ending show.
a bright child.
No,
Okay.
nor have I blossomed into.
So
a
what
bright
what
man.
show did it? What show caught you in a deeper way for the first time?
For me, it was definitely Star Blazers. That show, I
Yeah.
think, because of its episodic nature, made more sense to my somewhat literal brain. That it was
Yeah.
just like, oh, this is a story that I really want to hear the end of, and I want to tune in every day to see what happened.
Yeah.
My memory of this, which may be somewhat vague, is that this was on out of probably WPIX in New York before school, and my brother and I would wake up at like 6 in the morning.
Yes.
And eat Quaker instant oatmeal. Quaker, call us if you're looking for sponsorship opportunities. And eat oatmeal and watch Star Blazers every single day. And in my mind, that happened for like 15 years, even though that
It
doesn't
was
really.
probably
But it
4
was
months.
like, probably not even a full school year. But
Well, Star Blazers ran for like 5 years.
Yeah.
But it was mostly the same episodes. But yeah, that is my exact memory, was getting up at 6 a.m. with my brother, my younger brother in my case, and eating our cereal. And we had to get up early to see Star Blazers.
oh yeah,
and
it was
then get
appointment
ready.
viewing, and you had to get up early
Yeah.
to still make it to school.
Yep,
But it
yep.
was worth it. But we have the Star Blazers open here, I believe. You could play that theme song on my deathbed, and I would jump up and sing, "Oh, Star Blazers."
Yeah, I am still a huge fan of Star Blazers, which is Space Battleship Yamato
Sure.
in Japan, and
It was then.
the movies and the. But for
And
me,
the
it
new
was the
series.
same thing. It was a deeper storyline than I ever saw as a kid. It was a story that was a serious story where people actually died and things changed.
And you
where-
were legitimately worried about the fate of the world. Like, these guys better get there. We're
Yeah.
all going to die.
And, you know, American cartoons at the time were still sort of in you needed to be able to show it anytime, anywhere. So, you know, I would watch Thundar the Barbarian, and the story never progressed. It was
Or
always
changed in any way.
It was always the adventure of that episode. So it was the total revelation to me, too.
Yeah. And, I mean, I remember being at my grandparents' house, and they had these weird iced tea goblets, and we would hold them like desk lock, and then like desk. So anyway.
But then another show I wanted to talk about, just because it affected Toonami's future, is Voltron. This would be Lion Voltron, not Vehicle Voltron, which I
Right.
did see.
I had the vehicle Voltron. That was a pain in the ass to put together.
Voltron was a big deal in my household. It was another giant robot show, pretty common for the type of show that was popular in Japan at the time. And the reason I bring it up is because not only was it one of my earliest memories, it also was one of the first, if not the first, actual anime we showed on Toonami.
Yeah.
Right? And then, in addition to that, because of the voiceover in Voltron was Peter Cullen, who became the voice of Optimus Prime, and we were thinking early on, like, we need a good voiceover guy to be the voice of God for our promos. And I don't remember how it came up, but I remember talking to Sean and saying, what about the guy who does Voltron? Is he still around? And we had no idea I had no idea when I suggested it that he was Optimus Prime in the old Transformers movies, and he was Eeyore.
Yeah.
I had no idea about any of that.
I don't think I mean, he doesn't sound anything like himself when he does
Eeyore. Yeah. But yeah, so we called him, and he was totally on board. And of course, that began about a 10-year collaboration with Peter before he retired from doing commercials, because that Optimus Prime and Eeyore money.
Yeah, that's
some good money.
Yeah, I don't know how good the Eeyore money is, but it's a lot easier on
it's
his
good
voice.
money. It's 20 years worth of work.
I guess
Well,
that's
so
true.
why don't we show this open? Because this open and the feel of it was the format for early Toonami promos,
Right.
really. Voltron, baby.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the Toonami promo.
The early
Days of
template.
Distant Past.
Totally. I mean, we just ripped everything from that promo because it meant it affected us so much.
Right.
So what about you? You have one more.
Yeah, so Battle of the Planets ran at the same time. I think it was back to back, but maybe that's not
I think it was a little
right, but
earlier. Maybe it was the same time.
It seemed like that was an hour of TV that we would watch as kids, but that may not be accurate. But that was another show that at the time I didn't know was anime, but just was a cartoon, totally different than pretty much anything else that was coming around. And we have not Gotcha Man, but Battle of the Planet.
All right.
I like that they form up by doing a Callaway Garden style water skiing routine and then separate off before they go. But I loved this show as a kid, and it still looks awesome. I mean, this is another show that was hacked up from its original anime form, but even as a kid, you were never like, "What? There seems like there's something missing here." You're just like, "This is awesome."
And then we also showed that show on Toonami years later. It was a midnight run show only, I think, because it was a cheap license at the time. So
and I like that this is another Star Wars. They were like, "Oh, we got to get some of that Star Wars money." So they named it Battle of the Planets.
So, I mean, probably most of these shows are thanks to Star Wars doing, changing pop culture. But so you collated the answers on our Toonami Tumblr. We asked, just to refresh people's memory, we asked our fans on the Toonami Tumblr, toonami.tumblr.com, where we normally send fans to ask us questions or tell us what they think about something. We asked them what their first anime was, and you collated those answers. So
so not the most scientific of collations, but just sort of going through it. Dragon Ball Z seemed to be fairly far and away the #1 choice, which I think makes sense, both in its popularity worldwide and also its run on Toonami. I think that's...
I can't imagine being lucky enough as a kid that your first anime was Dragon Ball Z.
There were people whose first anime was Fooly Cooly, which just seems mind-boggling.
Crazy.
To be able to be in that specific time that you haven't seen any anime before that, but you happen to be watching Fooly Cooly, like, that your mind... I mean, I remember being at Production IG, super jet-lagged, eating those weird puff cream pastries. And watching it as they were playing it out.
Were like, check this out.
This is the most insane, awesome thing I've ever seen in my life. But Dragon Ball Z was #1. Pokemon and Sailor Moon were pretty close for tied. Gundam Wing and various Gundams were high on the list. Bebop, Voltron, Yu Yu Hakusho, Yu-Gi-Oh! A couple Speed Racers, which was actually Johnny, our editor's first anime.
Speed Racer, if you were of a certain age, is another one of those shows.
Sarah's first anime was Voltron. A lot of Robotechs, a lot of Totoro.
Well, Totoro had a good run. Disney Channel showed it a bunch. We showed it, and a lot of people remember that month of Miyazaki we did. But TCM showed it a bunch. Disney, before that, Fox Kids had a cut because Fox used to have the rights to it. So Totoro is one that, of all the Miyazaki movies, has been around television the most. Again, how do you... Your first is Totoro. I mean, my daughter, that's probably her first, thinking about it. I think I showed her Totoro, so that was Kiki and Totoro. Kiki's Delivery Service and Totoro were her first animated.
And I believe Chris, our director of production's first anime was Princess Mononoke.
That's a pretty good one.
In the theater.
That's pretty good. So yeah, thanks to everybody who sent us in your answer to our question of the week. We're going to do that every week, so we'll come up with something good for next time.
Hopefully.
But in the meantime, we're going to go on to our next segment where we are going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek what's coming up tonight in Toonami. So every week, for those of you that don't know, and most of you listening to this will know, we make something new to run inside Toonami. And this week, our sneak peek that we're going to show you is tomorrow night's piece of creative we made, which is a game review.
Game review for Dying Light, which is the music that you're hearing right now. Typically, especially now that we've moved to midnight, it'll be the first commercial break that we have. It's usually right around 12:15. Sometimes the timing gets a little weird, but DBZ's timing works out pretty well, so unless we make something that's really long, you'll be able to see this right around 12 a.m. So if you do not want to see this, turn off your internet devices for approximately 90 seconds and then turn them back on. Or I guess you could just mute them and close your eyes. Whatever.
Just suck it up. Here's the Dying Light game review.
Dying Light, the new open-world zombie killer from the Dead Island folks, is out. And this time, they've added in some parkour-style running. You play a military dude who's dropped in behind enemy lines to do, well, something. The story's kind of all over the place. Pretty much all you need to know is run, jump, mash. Controls are a little crazy, but once you get the hang of it, this game's fun. During the day, it's pretty straightforward. Quests, level up your guy, smash some zombies. During the night is where things get, hectic. The bad guys move faster and hit harder. The rule is, don't get seen if you want to live. Get bonus points for braving the terror and coming out alive. Not going to change your life, but if you like Dead Island and can make it to the open world part, you're going to have a lot of fun. Toonami gives Dying Light a 7.5 out of 10. These come out at night.
So
okay, so you can turn back on your microphones and listening devices.
So you're playing. You and I both played this. That footage came from our games.
Yeah, it's story, but my guy is more powerful. So
that's not the point of the game, though.
See, this is Jason and I have sort of differing. Jason likes
why don't you explain what you like to do?
So what I like to do is enjoy myself in a gaming experience for whatever that game may end up being. Jason wants to beat a game as thoroughly but also as quickly as possible and leave its dead husk on the side of the road, moving on to the next one. And it's a force du jour of Jason smashing his way through whatever game and then saying in his mind and out loud, next, and then putting in the next game and going. And which is one of the reasons why I'm still playing Destiny, and one of the reasons why Jason didn't really like Destiny is that I like doing certain things in games that's just sort of fun to me and playing that isn't in the linear storyline.
Now I'm going to interject.
So Jason's take on things might be slightly different.
Yes, what Gil's saying about what you're saying about me is correct. I do like to, when I really like a game, I want to do as much as I can do within the world of the game and finish the game to completion, and that means doing as much as humanly possible.
Very, very fast. It's impressive.
I'm a fast player, yes. So, but Gil gets caught up and enjoys systems in games. He enjoys if you have something to collect, or something that will upgrade your character, or some special thing that gets you more money. Yes. You like to collect money that you never spend in the game.
Yeah, or hoard items that I want to save for a rainy day that never comes.
You will play.
I finish every game with $9 million and a suitcase full of goodies.
Right. You will play a game as a system, as a as just because it's fun to do this thing, not necessarily to move from point A to point B. And for me, the point of
is to kill point B.
Well, I will play a game just for the sake of playing the game, but that would be more of an open world game, or that would be Call of Duty, or
so for me, this is a similar sort of approach to like an open world game the way Far Cry would be, or Shadows of Mordor, where it's like I don't really want to play the story. I want to do all the other stuff. I want to show up in the town, climb to the highest point, look around, find all the extra stuff to do, kill everyone I possibly can, find all the best weapons, improve them if I can, make new special skins to hold my weapons, anything like that. So that's sort of how I'm approaching Dying Light, even though that's not really the point of Dying Light.
I disagree that your character's more powerful. He's just faster.
And stronger.
We're the same.
No, not now, my friend.
Did you play last night?
No, I
played that your character's more powerful. He's just faster.
And stronger.
We're the same.
No, not now, my friend.
Did you play last night?
No, I played this morning.
Well, anyway, but this game to me is good. It's from the guys who made Dead Island, which was not amazing, but it was a lot of fun.
Which is similar to the way this game is.
And this game is sort of a more refined version, because Dead Island was super glitchy, and Dead Island 2 was rushed to release and basically broken.
Yeah.
So this is better than those.
This game doesn't seem broken. It's just the controls are weird. You jump with the shoulder button. It was broken
because there was a huge update.
Well, yeah, but it was like day one, where they were telling people if you're not downloading this update, you're not playing the real game.
Right.
But despite all that, it's sort of Mirror's Edge meets Dead Island, and that you parkour, run around, and then at night the zombies are faster and hit harder, and it's fun for me to try and kill as many zombies as I can during the night, and then run away from them as I can, and then it's pretty scary. And usually I'm not scared in the scary games, but this one scares me for some reason.
To be scared, Gil.
I'm scared.
It's an open world, first-person zombie killing game. The only problem I really have with the game right now, I'm having a lot of fun with it. My only real issue with the game, other than this story is kind of complete cheese, is that you can't warp anywhere because they want you to feel like you have to run from everything, but sometimes missions will be across the map and it takes you 15 minutes to get from point A to B, and I just think at a certain point it's like, come on, be respectful of the time that it takes in the day to do this, because not everybody can spend.
They want you to be caught out in the open after dark and
be scared.
Which
you still doesn't ever like, but you don't have to do that either, ever. You could never play the game in the dark. If you wanted to, you could literally just always go to a safe house and sleep.
If you've gone around and systematically opened up all the safe houses. But I do think that that's a mechanic they're trying to do. I don't like the pathfinding, especially in the story missions, I think is pretty weird. There's a lot of times where they have a map and it can tell you up or down, but a lot of times it's sort of like somewhere in this room there's a thing, and sometimes the camera hoses you. The gunplay, I think, is really weird too because it doesn't actually work like a shooter, and the buttons again are all weird.
Yeah.
But I do think it's super
Oh
fun.
yeah, that was a big problem you had at the beginning of the game, was the layout of the controls kept screwing you up.
Yeah, so it's who jumps with
Gil,
the shoulder button?
Gil also gets really hung up on game mechanics, like whether the controller is laid out in a certain way will bother you a lot more than it would me, and then something that would bother me would be more like what I'm complaining about with the not being able to warp from a point because it just takes time, and I'm not wanting to spend
stuff to do.
I got a wife and kid and
You
a
got
job.
more